Welcome to another edition of the Wolfpacker Show. This is a special show as we reaction to what has been a banner evening for NC State football recruiting, the types of which you don't see a whole lot of. Um, in recruiting in general, you don't typically see multiple announcements for one school in one day and a random Friday in August, but it happened for NC State. And so Ethan McDowell, my co-host and fellow editor at the Wolfpacker.com, and myself, Matt Carter, we're here to break it down for you. Post a couple quick housekeeping items. A reminder: you can download this podcast, listen to them wherever you may subscribe to your podcast. Please give us a subscribe to ours and also rate us. Maybe leave some comments, give us a review, whatever you're supposed to do. It just helps us out. If you're on YouTube watching this, um, we are now over 2,000 YouTube followers. Woohoo! If you have been on the channel, you've seen all of the post-practice media availabilities over the last couple of days after the start of preseason camp. I still refuse to call it fall camp. We had Dave Dorn, we've had Robert and we've had Brennan Armstrong, we've had MJ Morris. Lots of interviews for you to check out in addition to our podcast. So give that go subscribe to that, follow that. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere, YouTube as well. The Wolfpacker is the handle. So pretty simple to figure out. And last but not least, please check out our sponsor, robeshop.com. ROG as in girl, UES as in Sam, HOP.com for all your natural, safe, legal cannabis needs that might help you with some anxiety issues or chronic pain, or maybe you have sleep deprivation, or or maybe tense a lot and you just need to relax. And these are products that might be able to help you out. This is a small company, husband and wife lead it, and they are personally involved and will answer all your questions online or on our message board to help point you in the right direction. So, with that said, Ethan, big day. We kind of anticipated coming. Let's get right to the headliner. Right, he's a guy who's been on the NC State radar since 1974. Not just kidding, but he's been on the radar for a long, long time. Jonathan Paylor from Burlington, North Carolina, goes to Cummins High School. He has been an athletic freak and a playmaker since he was a freshman. Every team in the country pretty much offered him a scholarship. And until about 2 weeks ago, you always knew NC State was one of the schools he really liked. But I would venture a guess to say until about 2 weeks ago, not many people thought it might be a realistic possibility. It is. He committed to NC State. He's a headliner. Ethan, just your reaction to how it unfolded and the impact for NC State.
I'll be honest, I didn't expect it to unfold this way. But what a massive recruiting win for NC State. I think it's hard to overstate how huge this is for the program. Paylor has been one of, if not the top guy on the recruiting board for years in the 24 class. And to, win a recruitment over a SEC program that really, really wanted him. Like, this isn't a matter of, oh, was he a take here or a take there? No, that there is a laundry list of Power 5 programs right now that would love to have Jonathan Paylor in their class right now. And NC State, through consistent effort and through building genuine connections, brought Paylor back home. He's staying home. He's going to NC State. And it's huge news. And it's at a position of need, too. So the stars kind of aligned in the perfect way. He's NC State's first wide receiver commit of the class. He won't be the last. And now NC State's got some momentum going there. And he's a guy that he knows every other in-state kid that's well known because, they all grew up together. They've gone on all these visits together. And let me tell you, I've talked to him. He's going to be talking to some guys. He's going to be reaching out. He's going to be recruiting. He's going to be the number one Wolfpack recruiter in the state of North Carolina right now. So it's a huge, huge development for the class. This is a class-defining day with two massive commitments, and Paylor's one that NC State fans should be very, very excited about.
Let's talk about a little bit about you've seen him in person. You went to one of his games, if I recall last
I did.
fall. You have seen him in person. He was also, I believe, one of your earliest interviews when you started the beat. And I remember you raving about your interview experience with Jonathan the first time you talked to him. So maybe let's get our listeners behind the scenes a little bit. Talk about what kind of football player he is. Um, statistically speaking, he's used all over the field. He's not just a wide receiver. He does run the football some too. He's not a big receiver. He's probably in the slot, but he's got legitimate, verified time, speed, um, and also a very muscular bound young man. He's always been impressive physique, even if he's not the tallest guy in the world. Um, so talk about first your impressions of what you thought when you saw him and how he might fit with Robert and I's offense, and maybe you could also add the impact of Robert and I in the latter stages of the recruitment, but then also about Jonathan himself, what he's like to deal with and to talk to and to interact with. Because when you get to recruits of Jonathan Paylor's status, and no, I have no ill will or blame some of these kids. They tend to shut out the media, and it's an overwhelming process, and they don't want any added burdens onto their on their plate. But Jonathan was never really that way. So maybe kind of take our listeners behind the scenes and peel back the curtain a little bit of what Jonathan Paylor, the football player, looked like to you, and B, what Jonathan Paylor, the person, was like to deal with.
Yeah, so I went to his season opener last year, and in the first half, he was getting double and triple teamed the entire game, essentially getting used as a decoy. But it was either at the end of the first half or the start of the second half, I believe. He returned a kickoff for a touchdown, and it was like you blink and he was in the end zone. It's speed that pops. Like, it is legitimate football speed. It's legitimate track speed. He is a track star, and I'll go ahead and know he's going to be running track at NC State as well. He will be a two-sport guy with the Wolfpack. But when Wolfpack fans hear Jonathan Paylor's name, I want them to think Nyheim Hines. And I know that's a lofty comparison, but it's true. And Hines was a part of the recruiting pitch. He met Hines during one of his visits, and the comparisons are there. He's someone that you can put in the return game, and he'll make dynamic plays from day one. He is a little undersized. He's listed at 5'9", but when you have him in the slot and taking handoffs and jet sweeps and playing in the option game in the backfield, then that height doesn't really matter. And he's also extremely strong. He's an extremely strong runner. Even though he's 5'9", he doesn't go down on first contact. He can go through guys. He can go around them. He is a complete athlete who can take over games with his athleticism, his speed, his vision. And he has good hands. He sealed that game. I saw him play with an interception in the final minutes, playing defensive back. And one thing that stood out to me after I talked to him after that game is he looked at me, and I asked him about playing those roles, and he looked at me and he said, I'll do anything for my team. And that's the mentality, that's the attitude that Dave Doran loves. And I'm sure he's going to be bringing that same mentality to Raleigh. And so it'll be exciting to see him in Robert and I's offense. I know Coach and I took a liking to him as soon as they met. Paylor told me earlier this summer that they sat down on, I believe it was the official visit, and just talked through what his role would be like in the offense. And Nye was pulling up videos of guys he's coached previously and saying, like, hey, you're this guy, but you could be better. And that really resonated with Paylor. He sees a direct fit into the wide receiver room. He sees a direct fit into the system. And it's, by all accounts, it seems like the coaches do too.
What's he like as a person when you deal with him and you interact with him? What's he like?
He's probably the single most enthusiastic recruit I've ever interviewed. You talk to him and you can tell he had a lot of love for a lot of schools during this process. And it was all super genuine. You would ask him about South Carolina, and he would tell you exactly why he really loves that program. You ask him about NC State, he would tell you exactly why. And I really appreciate his time throughout the process. He was always willing to do the interviews and always offer a window into his recruiting process. State fans are going to love him. Like I said, he's just a really charismatic kid. And from when I've talked to him once after he shared his decision, he's very, very excited about being a part of this program. And yeah, I think fans have loved following along with his recruitment on social media, and they'll probably enjoy it even more now that he's going to be a part of this class.
By the way, you referenced his speed this past year. Jonathan Paylor did run track, finished third in the 2A state championship in the 100-meter outdoor during the outdoor season at 10.65 seconds, which would be one of the fastest times on the NC State team. He was second in the 200-meter dash at 21.75 seconds during the indoor season, second in the 55-meter dash at 6.41 seconds. He was actually timed at 6.34 earlier in the season, and he won the state title in the 300-meter at 35.13 seconds. So just to back up what Ethan was saying, this is legitimate. This isn't one of those, oh, he's a 4.4 guy and you're just saying that because he looks fast. This is verifiable track speed time coming into the receiving corps at NC State. Jonathan Paylor was not the only commitment to NC State. I promise we're going to get to the other here in a second. But Ethan, without, a good time to plug joining the website, Ethan was the first to put a prediction in for NC State with Jonathan Paylor. And that just kind of shows you his ability to get that kind of information. Next week, Terrell Anderson, another on-3 industry 4-star, another in-state prospect. He's from Grimsley High School in Greensboro. He's announcing his decision. I believe it's on Saturday, August the 12th. NC State, Tennessee, and Michigan, if I recall, top 3 there. But I think most people think that it'll be NC State or Tennessee, the 2 schools he officially visited in June. Without giving too much away, a lot of people like where NC State stands. Talk about the wide receiver recruiting, because we have a premium insider chat. You do a mailbag each week. There was a lot of consternation back in May and early June about the fact that there were all of these in-state wide receivers, at least 6, and there was a fear that NC State was going to strike out. That Jordan Ship goes to UNC, Alex Taylor was slipping away, Shannon Goodwin had already picked Michigan, Javarius Green didn't set up a visit to NC State. It was just, everybody thought Paylor was probably headed to South Carolina. It's a good, valuable lesson that recruiting is fluid, and sometimes you need to have a little bit of patience. But, how did Paylor sort of set up the wide receiver board, and what would be adding a Terrell Anderson mean for NC State?
Yeah, it's very feasible that within the next 8 days you go from 0 wide receiver commits to by the rankings, the top 2 wide receivers in the state. My prediction's public. I have a prediction in for Terrell Anderson on the site. I feel good about it right now. We'll see if anything changes in the next week. But right now, I mean, you get Paylor in the boat today, and then he already told me he's already going to be talking to Terrell. He wants to team up. He's been telling me that since July. He wanted to team up with Terrell Anderson and Alex Taylor. Alex obviously ended up picking UNC at the end of the month. I wouldn't be surprised if Terrell joins the class next week, if then him and Paylor then start to mount a little bit of a flip campaign for Alex. But I don't think there's anything to that right now. But I know I know Anderson and Paylor are interested in playing together. That is something they have talked about. They went on that official visit together. And then you look at it where you get those 2 top in-state receivers, and then you have a bit of an expanded board now where you have Christian Zachary, who'll be in town for the Notre Dame game. for an official visit. He stopped by camp kind of unexpectedly for me. I didn't know the visit was happening, but he stopped by camp. He came for an unofficial visit a few days after he committed to Virginia, and there's definitely some interest there. He was originally going to come down for Alpha Wolf, but it didn't work out, which is I don't think he had a ride. But then they also offered another kid, Jamar, Boston, I believe, and he's a electric athlete who, there's not a ton known about his recruitment, but ESPN has him as a 4-star recruit. On3 has him as a solid 3-star, and he has 2 Power 5 offers from Virginia Tech and NC State right now, and he visited for Alpha Wolf. That trip went well. I expect NC State to be a contender there, so we'll just have to see if he ends up scheduling an OV and getting back on campus. But so let's say for the sake of projections, you get Paylor and Anderson coming out of next week. Then you're in a situation where, I mean, shoot, you add either of those receivers, and that's a dream receiver class. I think any NC State fan would be thrilled with that, especially with where they stood in like May and April. So things are starting to turn around, and like you said, I think you even told me when that was all happening, and I was getting a little pessimistic about it. You told me to have patience about it, and recruiting is fluid more than ever, and things are starting to turn around for NC State.
Let's move on to the other commitment, Joshua Alexander Felton. He's a defensive lineman from Orlando, Florida. He had a nice offer list. I mean, he's an On3 industry 3-star, but a really solid. This is the guy that I always like to say, if you could take 5 official visits and use them all on a Power 5 program, then you're a consensus Power 5 prospect. I don't know how much longer I'll be able to say Power 5, but you're a consensus Power 5 prospect. Alexander Felton was a consensus Power 5 prospect. I know the feeling was that Maryland and Central Florida might have been the other 2 schools most high up in the mix for him. He seems to be a very good fit for what people need to understand with NC State defensive line recruiting. It's very targeted now, because they are looking for specific types of D linemen to fit their scheme. And there have been some very good edge rushers, for instance, in the state of North Carolina that NC State did not recruit because they are not the fit for that 3-man front. They're not looking for that 6'4", 200-pound pass rusher. Alexander Felton, we both saw him at Alpha Wolf Showcase, along with Chase Bond, the other defensive line commit from Ohio. Very similar body types. They fit the mold of what Tony Gibson and Charlie Wiles are looking for. Did your reaction? Obviously, he joined the commitment parade on Friday. What was your reaction to his pickup? I think it kind of even surprised a little bit of NC State, because I remember talking to sources in June who were skeptical that Alexander Felton was going to be on a fast pace. They thought he took an official visit to NC State. They were fairly convinced he was going to go through and take some official visits in the fall. That one was going to drag out a while. It seemed to change after that official visit and put NC State on a fast track that I get the sense even surprised NC State a little bit.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I think that was the plan. I think the plan was for his recruitment to go into the fall, for him to maybe go to UCF, and I think maybe Pitt was the other school he was considering visiting. But he was going to take a couple more official visits. And hats off to NC State's staff. Charlie Wiles, defensive line coach, was his primary recruiter. I think they really, really, really hit the ball out of the park on his official visit. I think he was really impressed with the overall vibe, the culture of NC State. And I mean, when you look at the defense, it's a unique defensive scheme, but he plays on a 3-man line at Edgewater High in Orlando. All 3 of NC State's commits actually do on the defensive line, which is pretty cool. But he knows what his role is going to be like. It's sometimes hard for a defensive lineman to pop in that playing on a 3-man line. If you go look at his film, he pops. He's shoving offensive linemen off the ball, and looks like a very, very strong player, explosive, and someone who's going to be a great fit. And yeah, I mean, something shifted over the past couple months where I think he just built the staff built a really, really strong bond with Alexander Felton and his family, and that made him comfortable enough to come back for a second visit, and shut things down.
We think it's probably it for the defensive line. I mean, when you think of they already got Chase Bond, and then you beat out North Carolina for Justin Terrell, who was also briefly committed to Wake Forest at one point in his recruitment at defensive tackle from Rome, Georgia. No, he's not from Rome, Georgia, is he? Where's he
I
from?
believe so. Yeah.
Oh, Rome, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he's projected probably to be an interior nose tackle type player. Because Chase Bond was a pure evaluation play. He had a handful of group of 5 type offers particularly from the MAC, where he sort of nearby located. But Justin Terrell, real nice offer list. Alexander Felton, real nice offer list. They may not be headliners per se, but again, you have to remember NC State's looking for certain types, and they seem to have found 3 guys who fit their type, and a couple of them at least were pretty much consensus Power 5 level recruits. You think that's it for the defensive line?
Yeah. I think they're comfortable taking this class. Maybe if someone like a Red Hibbler out of JUCO pops up, maybe they consider taking another JUCO lineman, or and then maybe monitor the transfer portal a little bit. But the defensive line room's in pretty good shape right now. They've got some depth back there, and yeah, I think they'll be comfortable taking 3.
As of right now, I got to remember too that the only defensive lineman scheduled to leave would be Savion Jackson. Now, obviously, we'll see how transfer portal changes all that, or maybe a Davin Van just completely blows up this year and puts himself into NFL consideration. But they are in pretty good, healthy shape on the defensive line as well. So I think this is a lot about keeping that cupboard full, so that you're not in a position where you're having to scramble to absolutely need to take 2 or 3 transfer portal pickups to have a competent defensive line. So lots still more to come. And if you hadn't joined the site, still a very little bit of time left on that 1 month for $1 deal. We've been promoting it all week for a reason. It was a big week, and we've lived up to the promise. There's going to be a lot more to come from preseason camp before their opener, which is now less than 4 weeks away, 27 days till Ethan McDowell is in somewhere in Connecticut, watching the Pack kick off, and hopefully it's a better experience than the last time Ethan McDowell did a solo season opener on the road when I was quarantined by COVID, and we had to NC State fans had to nervously wait for a field goal kick to go a little bit wide in East Carolina. So it could be fun. They're all looking forward to it. It's a great time to be an NC State fan. And of course, a lot of uncertainty. So we're going to be covering a lot of the future of the ACC and whatever over the next few weeks too. So we'll have our ears to the ground in a lot of angles. Great reason to sign up for the Wolfpacker.com. And a reminder, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all of those at The Wolfpacker. You can follow Ethan at Ethan M. McDowell on Twitter. You can also please give us a like on YouTube and follow us. Leave a comment, ask a question. Please rate and review this podcast wherever you may listen to your podcast. Last but not least, a reminder to check out our great sponsor, RogueShop.com, for all your natural cannabis needs and products, whether it's something that might help you just relax or ease some of your anxiety or chronic pain, or might help you get some sleep, caught up on your sleep. And if you've been having issues with any of that and nothing seems to work, why not give them a try, right? It's a small company, husband and wife outfit. husband's a disabled veteran, is a big believer in these products. They're there online to help you out if you go to their website or if you go to our message board and ask them some questions to guide you in the right direction to the right products that might help you out. It's legal, it's safe, so give it a try if you desire. So, big day for NC State football recruiting. We had to get a podcast up to react to it. For Ethan McDowell, I'm Mark Carter. This has been the Wolfpacker Show.